Hello, everybody. We're going to get started here in about, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes. So I see people are kind of piling in. Thank you guys for joining. Some friendly, regular faces. We'll get started here, I don't know, like I said, around 12:04, somewhere between 2 to 3 minutes. We'll get started with some stuff. I see we got more and more people joining. We will get started with some stuff in about, I don't know, 2 minutes or so. If you do know, like, hey, I know you got a question, or a topical type area, feel free to put it in the chat, QA, something like that. I can make sure I get some eyes on it as well as I'll talk about your thing first. So, if you get yourself into a position where you have something you want to ask about, the chat or the QA is a good spot for it. But like I said, we are not probably going to get started here for about 2 to 3 minutes. So, um, yeah, more and more people are joining. Thank you guys for joining today. We'll get started here. I don't know, a couple minutes. And I saw someone raise their hand, but it reminded me. Apologies for not getting back to you. Alexander, I did make a new, more stable training instance container for you. So at some point today or tomorrow, if you have time, I'd love to get up with you outside of this kind of session, and I can talk about getting you migrated over. I already have the instance made for you. Um, so it's going to be a pretty smooth process. I just kind of want to talk you through it. I can help you with it as well. I'll probably send you an email right now as we speak, just so you get reminded and I get reminded. Everyone gets reminded. So I'll send you an email right now. Close out of this, boom, over here. All right. So like I said, we're going to get started here in just a few moments. If you've got questions, put them in the chat or the QA. We've got a couple dropping in already. Um, yep, you said sounds good. Cool. Yeah, I just sent you an email so you can remind me that I can remind you, that you can remind me, that I can remind you. So apologies got away from me on that. I think that was on Tuesday I made that, so or maybe it was on Monday. All right. We'll get started here in about 60 seconds. So if you've got another question, any questions, I know we got a couple in the Q&A already. We can kind of start looking at them. So we'll get started here in just a moment. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Thank you guys again for joining. The quick housekeeping, keep it really short today. We have a decision solutions marketplace. It's kind of got accelerators, flows, forms, stuff like that, built out, um, so that you can I got another question in the chat so that you can reduce your friction to deployment. So again, I know it's hard to scan a QR code if you're on a computer. Um, so you just Google it. I'll show you that. And then we have a YouTube channel. We've been uploading lots of new stuff. And we have more stuff coming down the pipeline, especially with 9.2 coming out. So I'll give you the quick version. If you are interested in that stuff, if you can't scan a QR code from your computer, if you type in decisions, solutions, marketplace on Google, it'll show up right there. Um, it'll show up right there. And on this thing, you're going to have, while we retrieve it, these things we call accelerators, which again, can help you build out. These have various decisions elements in them, such as rules, workflows, forms, dashboards, design patterns, assignments, you name it. But they are all available there for you in the Decisions Solutions Marketplace. And on the top right, we've got the YouTube channel. We've been updating stuff. We have stuff related to 9.2, which just dropped, coming out in the coming days. I've already built a couple of videos. They haven't posted yet. But we have some new stuff that we've been posting. We have one dropping today about UI, I believe. No, I'll have to look at it. But I'm gonna get it edited and put up today. Made by Jared, who's one of our brighter folks around here. But just, little simple stuff, catch exception, repository primer, all these lunch and learn videos, um, entities, comments, just various stuff. We're just trying our best to take a lot of these lunch and learn questions. And if it's something that, may be relevant for other people or need some type of deeper dive, as they would say, we try and do that and make content for that. So um, those are your kind of easy ones. The last one is just, we have events going on all the time. We have a digital submerse for the first time ever. So if you wanted to do a submerse event, but you can't get away from the office or the house, it's like a nice, like, 3-day primer. We have two versions, foundations and masterclass, where you can learn about decisions in a more consolidated way, where you get like 3 days worth of information rather than kind of, doing it asynchronously and taking an hour here, an hour there. We also have a bunch coming up here in Virginia Beach. We've got, look at all these. So we have, what do we got? 5 events, including one digital. So we have one in Singapore, we got one in Virginia Beach, we got another one in Virginia Beach, and then we're going to do something in Vegas. I'm not going to do that, but someone's going to be there. But yeah, just options for you. We got tons and tons and tons of options. Oh, the last thing. I know we got questions, but we always run out of time early. I just do want to reiterate as well. If we have a decisions forum as well, you can type in decision support forum or community.decisions.com, either or. Um, but it's a good repository of information. So if you're working on a specific thing like data pairs or something, you can Google it and get information there, as well as we have an entire category where I go through and post the questions with timestamps to the video, as well as how you can register, which you don't need because you're already in here. But just be aware, you got plenty of options for that. So we're going to start with some questions now, kind of close out of this. All right. So the first question I got, let's see here, comes from Alexander. So the question is, and I kind of asked Jeremy on the sidelines here, make sure I was correct. But my understanding, so the question is, hello. So to my understanding, data structures are basically like database tables. So if that's the case, how do I clear all of the data in it? Yeah, that's a good understanding of it. It's a good way to word it. Obviously, the different data structures are going to have different capacity. So if I open up a random project here, let's see here, just a random old, let's go full screen so you don't see all my bookmarks. Um, yeah, so again, depending on how you have this set up, you're going to have different options. Like if you're using something more external, you're going to have probably different options for it. Um, let me see what Jeremy had to say here. Yeah, differences between data structures. Thank you, William. That's the best document that we got on documentation, maybe. They're all good, but that one's particularly good. So just be aware that depending on what type you're going to have different options. I'll kind of show you a couple different things here. Um, yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking, Jeremy. So Jeremy gave me some intel. So you can write a query to delete all of the data in a structure. However, when using queries, you want to be very careful that um, you want to be very careful that you're writing it correctly so that you're not deleting the things that you don't want to delete. Um, I would generally advise, especially if you're kind of on the front end of your experience with decisions, maybe staying away from writing a query if you don't have a good idea of how to write that, because the last thing you want to do is delete a bunch of stuff and then it's gone. So kind of a safety net um, version of that. Let's go with I made this the other day. I was trying to break a case entity. So I have this structure here where I went through and I was trying to break a case entity. And just, for knowledge points, I guess, a customer asked a question around if I go and make a case data structure and I put like by default, this case ID prefix length is 6 units. But let's say you have it at 6 and then you run a million records. What happens once you break those six lines? So I said, let's test it. I only want a prefix length of 1. And then I ran like 52 records through it, or 50 something records for all the states, 51 records, I guess. I just found a Google list and it just added on. So again, in here, I have all of these in this structure, I have all 51 of these records as a case entity, even though the prefix length was only 1. And we did start with 1, whereas if that was 6, it would be like C000001. But an easy way to maybe delete records in there, you could always create a right-clickable action, but then you'll have to go through and actually delete um, all of that data, like individually. You could pull something like this, select them all, and then go through and delete. But what I would maybe recommend, and if someone in here has a different methodology, maybe outside of that query world, um, another thing that you can do is a similar methodology to this, where I iterated through and made them. Under my user-defined types, like I can create a flow and go, okay, hey, I want to clear out. Now that I have this thing cleared out, or now that I have these records, I want to delete all of the case entity. Yeah, sure. Whatever. What I can do is I can use a fetch, say I'm just going to fetch, and this is a quick little build out. What type am I going to fetch? I want to say I called it break me. Yeah, I did. And again, I have like 51 records in there. I can then run a for each, and I might just be able to run a delete as well, but I can run a for each. So then for every record that I get out of this break me, and I'll actually remove this to say, hey, look, for a moment, just to prove I'm fetching something, working a little slower motion. So when I fetch these entities, there are all of these results, right, with the state names, Louisiana, Minnesota, Missouri, Nevada, New Mexico, North Carolina. They're all there. So from there, I can go, okay, I just want to do for each onto the correct path here. Make sure I hit it. I did. Nice. And then you just have like the same place that you create any type of user-defined database. So like case entities down here, break me. I'll also give them the option rather than to create, I can also delete. So I can delete that record. And this is kind of a little bit of a safer methodology and say I want to I did this earlier too. I swapped the done in the normal path. Wasn't paying attention. There we go. And we're going through a collection of break me. I think if I just fill this out too, it'll just autofill that. Nice. Very cool. I'm iterating through the collection of this break me structure that I made because I was trying to break it. And then from here, I can just say, hey, entity item, entity ID. um, and then delete them all kind of in a flow. And you just have a little bit more of some safety nets outside of that, writing a query, especially if you don't have a ton of experience with it. We're just fetching, and you could do it partially too. You could say, hey, I want to add a fetch criteria. I only want to delete the ones where, the name equals or was created on a certain date or whatever the thing might be, um, or deleted on whatever whatever field you had there. But ideally, now if I run this and debug it, it just deleted all 51 for me. So, um, okay, we got some more in the chat. Thank you, VT. Let's run those too. So I deleted these records, 51 records, and they are all gone. Nothing in there. So VT had another point that he could bring up. So I'm gonna run some of his stuff too because we're lunching and we're learning today. So I'm gonna remake those records. This is the one that I used to make them. Um, I just did a create data and found a spreadsheet of state names, and then iterated through, used create step rather than delete, and just added it to that broken folder. All right, so he is saying we've got some other easier steps. Here they are all again, all 51 of them. He's saying there's a database category called delete all of type. Let's run it, man. Let's run that. BT solutions. Boom. All right, attempt number one. He said in database, there is a category called delete all of type. Ooh, this looks easy. This looks about as easy as it gets here. Looks about as easy as it gets. Nah, see, it didn't delete them. Maybe I had it mapped wrong. Let's go check it again. Flows. Well, I guess maybe these records still exist. There's nothing in them. No, they still exist. Or delete all type in folder. So delete all of type. Mm, so that one wasn't working for me. Let's try to delete all of type in folder under database. Delete all of type in folder. I gotta get the folder ID though. Ouch. All right. So I gotta get the folder ID here. So this would be a good step with a trigger flow because trigger flows, if you use case entities, they automatically populate folder ID based on the thing. But let's go ahead and see here, right click, more, get folder ID, copy that, go back into my flow, VT solutions. Let's make this a constant. All right, let's see what we got here now on this one. Ooh, ouch. Invalid column name entity folder ID. What did I miss? What did I miss? In the folder ID. I pasted the folder ID. I pasted it. So yeah, maybe those other two options might work as well. Delete all of type. Let's just look at documentation and then I'll actually unmute you, Alex, in there too, as well as if you got questions. I know you have another question too about uh, a dynamic select list of dropdowns, which we can talk about for sure. If I can find my chat button. Where are you, chat button? Oh, there we are. Bismuth, Alexander. We got two of you, so I'm just gonna let you both go. Yeah, if you got any questions, Alexander, can I clarify on that at all? At least for the deleting.
I don't have any questions currently because I
Okay,
had to use the update, so I'm kind of familiar with that one. So it's very
cool.
similar to the delete, it seems like. But yeah,
I'm gonna look at the other VT solutions just real quick, just while we're here on documentation. Let's go check this bit out here. Where am I? Database kind of delete all of type is the name of it. Let's see what this does. Delete all of type. Delete all of type steps. Deletes all data objects of a user-defined data type. This step utilizes the type name input to determine which data objects to delete. Um, and folder specifies with a folder ID. So maybe it wasn't working because the second one wasn't working because it did actually already delete them in the previous instance, but then I don't know why these would still exist in this folder. So um, if it were me, Alexander, I would do what I showed you earlier with this methodology. Again, there's 100 ways to do everything. But to me, this feels like the one built with the most safety nets involved, just because you can check when you fetch, you can check, and you can, before you actually run a delete, you can like put something else in there as like a show pop-up to show the data that you're populating, make sure like, hey, am I deleting the right stuff? And you kind of have these like safety nets built in. That's what I personally would do if I had to clear out structure or at least a series of entries into like a case entity or something. But that's what I personally would do. And again, you can also right click, you can create right click customize actions in a configuration folder. So you can say, or you can just select them all this way and run a delete. But there's just a little bit of depth to everything. My guess is it didn't work because case is not DB type, rather case entity consists of a couple tables. Oh, there you go. So what the insight that I got from the chat is that it probably didn't work because a case is not a database type, rather it's a case entity. So it has a couple tables. Because when you create a case entity, something like, let's just go in to look at one of these. Um, flows. There we are. Let's go with something like this, just a show. No, maybe something like this. What is the easiest way for me to show this? Maybe on a create step. Oh, this is the easiest way to do it. Yeah, a create. So I think what VT is saying is that it probably isn't working on that one, which is why I was talking about the very front end. Um, there's just depending on what type of structure you have, it's really going to depend um, on how you do it. But let's just go ahead and show this real fast. I think this is the fastest way to do this. Break me, expand me out. I think what he's referencing, I could be wrong here, is that notice how if I build data here, like although that my case entity only had this one field in it, name, when I built it, it has all this extra stuff that's kind of built in that references another table. So that's why that step didn't work because there's multiple tables involved that like store the case ID, deleted by, deleted on, all that stuff. Because in my actual table that exists for this particular case entity, I only have that one. I only have that one field, but the rest of it is kind of like a paired table. Okay, let's go to the second question about some actual build out stuff. How would you make three dynamic select list drop downs that all update based on what is selected, and all of this is feeding into a data grid? Okay. Can you give me a little bit? So what is your end goal? And I see the wording there, but what is your end goal there, Alexander?
So the end goal for this one is that the end users are going to be able to basically filter through thousands of, it's going to maybe not thousands, but
Sure.
hundreds of records. And essentially, if I in the different select groups are going to be like location, let's say location, company, company name, and um, I don't know, sales type or something like that. So essentially, like if I pick the second filter, right, and I select let's say, the first one I pick a country of Latin America, then I don't need to see any companies that don't exist in Latin America at that point because everything else should. So when I go to my second select to pick a company, I should only see companies in Latin America, and as well as if I instead go to the middle filter and then select a company, let's say Walmart, I should only get places that Walmart exists in the first select. So,
And
for
you want always
instance,
on the same form or on like a two forms that feed into each other? This is a form, right? You're talking about
it's all in the same form. Yep.
same form. So the top half. Let me just get my handy dandy pencil maneuver here if I can figure out again how to pull that up. Something like this. We're gonna have a form
Mhm.
at the top. We're gonna have drop downs,
Yes.
and then these are going to filter. You said a data grid, advanced data grid.
Yes, that's correct.
So advanced data
I don't know if it's an advanced data
grid.
grid, but a data grid.
Cool. And then again, these are all just filtering options.
Yes. But when I select the filter option, they also filter, themselves and their siblings.
So
I don't know if you want to call
so
them that.
yeah, yeah, that makes sense. So like if this has uh if I filter this to option two, or like if I filter this to option two, this will now only populate with stuff that pertains to filter two that only exists in
Yes,
that data field.
correct.
Yeah. Let's think about it, man. It's going to be, I can definitely work on building it right now, but it might be something I have to build and send to you just because it's going to be a little bit of a bounce back and forth thing of, but I'll gladly start it. What were the three fields here? Company name, sales type, and what were your other
Uh,
ones?
you could say country, I guess, or location.
I'm just going to add, just so I have this as a more complex type. I'm just going to add a fourth one because I can.
Yeah,
Uh, do, 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 do.
this is more theory, if anything.
Yeah. Oh,
But
command.
my coworker made one, and she asked me to. She didn't ask, but I wanted to see how you guys would create it.
It's going to involve quite a bit of active form flows, in my initial opinion.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, yeah, I'm trying to think if there's a way you could do it just through like a report filter. I know Jeremy's done some report filtering stuff, but I kind of can start working on it. Jeremy, if you're still in the chat, would it be easier to go through some type of report filtering option rather than active form flows that populate um, drop downs if we're having so many speak back and forth?
Also, the point of it is so the end user can like select all of those and then basically make an update to them all at once.
Hmm, let's take a look. That is a bit of a build out, but I like a little bit of a speed run here. And for anyone who's just joining, if you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat or QA. We can start putting some eyes on them. I will gladly get to everything. I can, but just again, if you're just joining, feel free. I'm just kind of working through some form prompts here. Let's see here. Create new. How can I do this without doing a huge? I built that structure already though, didn't I? All right, let's make some records there, I think. Uh, what is the fastest way to make a bunch of records? Mm, what is the fastest way
You
to
want
do
to easily
this?
make a bunch of records, just use a for loop and pick a
Yeah,
big number.
but I also want them to get for each. I also want them to have different values. That's
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, you can pull the item from the for loop as just like a number.
true.
So then you can just use item on that create and it'll be different every time. Yeah, if it's purely just for testing seeing a bunch of records, it would be a little bit different if you need it to be on all the different things.
Good. We're getting crazy in here. Company name, select from flow, generate random name output.
And sorry, I had stepped away when you had first asked your question. Can you ask the question that you had asked me again?
Yeah, it's a little bit of an odd one. I'll draw it out. Thank you for following back up. But it's so I know that you had done a couple weeks ago or a couple days ago, you had done a build out. Maybe last Friday we were talking about it, but with we're essentially trying to run a form with three drop down boxes
Hmm.
that are all filtering each other kind of dynamically. So you have drop downs for field one, drop downs for field one, drop downs for field two, drop downs for field three, and down here you have a data grid. Um, Data grid like that, kind of one of these dealios. And so when you put an option into field one, like the name, now the only options in field two will be based on that particular first field, and then vice versa. So all of these, Alex just used a good word. I can't think of what he used, but sibling, I think he said. These all have like a sibling related filtering process, but then they will all also filter the results down here. And I was wondering if there was a faster way to do it than doing like an active form flow population using some type of a report methodology. But I know that's kind of a big build.
Yeah, you can go ahead and keep building this out, and I'll kind of explain a little bit about what I've done.
Yeah.
The stuff that I'm more familiar with that I think you might be thinking of is using using pages to do that kind of thing because you can set up
True. Yes, I am thinking of that.
yeah, because you can put like your forms and do the uh flow run parts on a page, which is like a form. So then the flow run parts would have those like elements um, with like your drop downs and everything like that. And then you could use the way that that gets filled out to populate a report either directly underneath it or or it could like link to another report or something. Uh, and so I've done that where it's you fill out the form and then it will filter out the report that's right below that form. That's on a page, not necessarily on a form. So if you're trying to have it, upload um, specifically on a data grid, it may be a little bit different. I don't know if what I've done will track it the exact same way, but if it doesn't need to be, on an advanced data grid on a form or anything like that, um, using flow run parts, you would still probably need the active form flows to at least populate the drop downs, but you might be able to then use the filtering to filter a report below it instead of having to populate a data grid like you had mentioned before. So I think you could work with part of what you said, but I think on the active form flows, you would still need active form flows to at least populate the other drop downs with their sibling topics or whatever, as you mentioned.
It's just funny generating all these with random names. Okay. So we have a ton of fields. Let's do some form work here. Again, this might be something I'm going to build out for a couple moments, but if I'm feeling like this is taking too long, I might just have to get back to you because that might just be the
No,
time.
that's understandable. She was up to like 12 at night doing this, so
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Hopefully I'm not up even that late. Great name. Let's say um, filtering, sibling, child, reporting, data, grid. Insane naming methodology, but okay. So we're having three columns at least here. Let's just do three for now. And we're going to have these filtered with a drop down list. And just a funny, easy one. Just, I mean, it's kind of obvious, but on the screen it says Shift Enter, Enter. If I click Shift Enter, it'll add a label, or if I just hold down Shift and hit Enter, it's just a nice methodology to like add labels for those of you that might not have known that. Just pointing out easy stuff. So then we're doing some type of data grid, advanced data grid. Data grid advanced. Let's make that thing big. All right, the type is Alexander Fields. Input data name, we're going to call this what to input. We're going to fetch all that data that I just added so we can add it to the input for that advanced data grid. We're going to say we want all of these with no fetch criteria. This is going to be called entity results. So then on here, because I said what to input, I can pick entity results. Cool. Just add a button and make sure we can at least get that minimal functionality right. I'm big on just testing things as we go rather than doing a ton of building and then trying to test. Let's just say button text, done. So let's see if we're getting any data. I think actually I do have to adjust the data grid. Yeah, I got to add fields. So we're going to say for fun, value, location, sales type should track values. Oh, company name. I don't know. That looks fine to me. All right, so let's just see if we're getting any kind of data here first, and then if we are, I'm feeling happy. Okay, we're getting data. And you said you wanted to be able to perform CRUD actions on your database, like you wanted to perform create, destroy, kind of like, update actions on here.
Mostly update. It should just update the data grid below, as well as the select themselves.
I got to remember how you add the. Oh, here it is. Grid mode info. You want inline edit. You want inline edit there. So now that we're doing that, we're going to say output data because we're making edits. And now we're outputting something. What am I missing? Always forget with advanced data grids. There's another section you got to adjust here. So behavior. Oh, you know what it is? It's in the report itself. You got to go to these fields and then allow it over here. Can't edit. So we'll just say we can edit value and we can edit location maybe. Now it'll let us edit them. And then we should just be on filtering, which is the actual ask here. Um, but hey, it's kind of fun to just be building here. I said location we can edit. Nice. All right. So now we are on. Do I have to map that in as well? I guess I guess make it a list of strings instead of an actual type there. Hmm. What is probably the path of least resistance here? Hmm. From entity results. Let's see if that just works for us. Because maybe the controller on the form. Okay. We are getting there, sir. All right. So we can just map in all the entity results. So now that we know that, this should be relatively straightforward. Data name, location, Alexander. Data name, Alexander. Run a different one. We'll just say, just for simplicity, we're only going to do two here. We'll do sales type. We'll just call that. So by default, the reason why I think I'm going this way is by default, I want every field to show everything automatically. Like, so that if I start, depending on where I start, it's going to give me all my options. Otherwise, if I populate in another way, it might be there. So then once we can value change this, again, we're kind of crazy here. We'll do about another 3 to 4 minutes. And again, if anyone has any other questions, feel free to put them in the chat. Because I'm probably going to take this offline here shortly. I am having fun while I'm having fun though. Active form flows. What is the name of this? Field two. We'll call this sales type field. Location field. Save them. Save them. Boom, boom. Active form flows. We can do based on the type. We're going to say, hey, when location field, the selection is changed. Location sibling filtering. And I can say, okay, so when that happens, we're getting kind of crazy here. Maybe I can get one working and then build the rest of it out for you. What I'm initially thinking, and again, anyone on the sidelines, feel free to give me some insight. I'm going to say, hey, I want to fetch all of Alexander, but I only want to have them with the fetch criteria where the location equals whatever we picked. So, what do I mean by that? Form data, location. So based on the location, we're going to get the entities that are related to that location so that we can set the control value on, or let's do in a full build out, you'd want to do set multiple controls, but just because I'm trying to get ourselves to a decent stopping point so I can take it offline, I'm just going to do a set a singular control. And I'm going to set the control value for the form data, the second one, which was the sales type field. Um, and we're going to say the item source comes from entity results. Um, all, what am I looking for again? For item source? Is that a thing? I'm kind of confused about where I even am. Sales type. Geez. Okay. So we got to find sales type. Entity result, all of sales type, but it's expecting that different type of structural thing here. Maybe this will just work, honestly, because it knows what field it is, because I put a filter on the actual unit itself. Selected item, we can just ignore this for now. We don't need to have anything pre-selected. The only problem is now that I'm actually building this out, there's no actual matches. Like I didn't have anything match up. You know what I mean? So it's never gonna, like it's always gonna just populate the same information. Well, maybe not. Maybe it will show me the one that matches it, the singular one that matches it. So if I go Catherine, nothing. Yeah. I'll take this offline for you, Alexander. Sorry about it. But I can definitely build you something. It sounds fun to me.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, just I know that I'm not gonna get it done in 15 minutes. So um any other questions, y'all? Let me know if there's something else I can do for you, even just some overarching information I can give you. But like I said, I'll make some matching pairs so that we have some matching fields here. Um, but that's probably what's going to end up having to be done. And one thing I do want to also just point out before we're going, because I can, what I'd also recommend, Alexander, is that decisions, solutions, marketplace, I would do a little bit of research in here and see if any of these are close conceptually to what you want. and then you can download them and see how they were built out by like our professional services team or the people that designed these. So you can look at some of these and be like, okay, if I was in your boat and I'm like, which of these um, might have information related to something like that where it's all dynamically filtered out. I might say, what about the scorecard wizard? And look in here and go, okay, there's some forms in here. And my thing is frozen right now. Or at least it's not letting me click. There we go. And just look and be like, do any of these have like some kind of filtering options like I would want? And if not, you can just go to the next one. But I would be exploratory in this direction and see if you can download something there just before I leave you. And then the last thing I'll say is this example lab, a part of our documentation. It's a little bit of older stuff, like it's from older iterations of decisions, but it does have downloads as well that you can look into and say like, okay, how did we build this? So like for this form logic, um, like creating dynamic forms, is this what I want? Allows for specific field visibility in a form to be toggled on and off based on selections made in a previous form. That's not the one exactly that we want, but it's one of those things where you might be able to populate through this and say, okay, which of these, is close to what I might want, and you can download it and look how it's built out in the meantime while I do some work for you. And again, this is example lab, which again is older stuff from 2021. But it is at least a good option to see how some things were constructed and you kind of reverse engineer um, concepts. So again,
Cool. I
yeah,
think I
man,
just added it to my bookmarks.
there we go. Yeah, and you like I said, all these have downloads at the bottom, so you can download them and just import them into your instance and see how they're built, and you can go through these and be like, nesting a data grid in a data repeater, probably not. Populate with an Excel file, probably not. But it's one of those things where there just might be something. Using data flows to transfer between form components, like this could be pretty close. And again, this is outdated stuff. So this is not how we do it. Data flows is a active form flow these days. So it's probably not going to be the best, but just conceptually, you can read at least. It's a good repository of reading, even if the imports aren't going to be super clean, because again, it's at this point 3 years old. So yeah, that's what I got. So unless anyone's got any final questions or anybody's got anything at all, I'll take that form thing offline. I'll probably post it on the forum as an individual post. So if you're interested in like, hey, I want to know how it was built too, I'll probably make a forum post and populate it on there for you. So you can keep your eyes on that as well. But I'll have to make some matching fields here so that this makes some actual sense. All right. Well, then I am going to go ahead and call it a session. Thank you guys very much. We have Jared, one of our smartest folk, hosting tomorrow. So feel free to swing back in with some heavy hitting questions. Thank you guys very much. Have a good rest of your day.